about for the believers is more merciful than themselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about him, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you, O Muhammad, but a mercy to mankind. So he warned the ummah about the trials and tribulation that come in through the time. And one of the things that you should put in your mind constantly, all the time, that the more you live, the more you see trial and tribulation. It's not about my suggestion, but this is what the hadith and many sound hadiths of the Prophet. He says, "Man ya'ish فَإِنَّهُ man ya'ish minkum." Whomever will live longer amongst you, فَسَيَرَى اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. He will see a lot of disagreement, a lot of trials and tribulation. And then he gives the advice. The Prophet never says, you're going to have problems, and then he walked away. He will actually give you the answer or the solution before even he tells you that there is a problem. And I will show you this beautiful hadith that the Prophet began by the solution. So the Prophet ﷺ, he says, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَعِشْ مِنْكُمْ, whomever lives, and we lives this time, which is the end of the time. لَا تَقُومُ السَّاعَةِ إِلَّا عَلَى شِرَارِ الْخَلْقِ. That the end of the time will not come except upon the worst of the worst people. There's another hadith, لا يأتي زمان إلا والذي يأتي شر منه. So you have to be careful. You have to return back to Allah. You have to abide to the Quran and the Sunnah with your molar teeth. That's what the Prophet ﷺ says. إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَرَى مِنْكُمْ مَنْ يَعِشْ مِنْكُمْ. He will see a lot of اختلاف between people. Ara. Today we are hit onto the main foundation of the religion today are attacked. That's subhanallah. The people attacking the Quran, the people understanding and twisting the ayat. People are holding the Quran and doing exactly what the Quran is against the Quran and on and on. So this is confusion, especially for the young people. فَسَيَرَى اخْتِلَافٍ كَثِيرٍ. Look at the word. He will see a lot of disagreement, a lot of confusion. And then he says a lot. And then he says, فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِسُنَّتِي. Go back to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, because you cannot understand the Quran without the sunnah. Allah subhanahu says this in the Quran, لِيُبَيِّنَ لَهُمْ مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْهim. Allah subhanahu sent the Prophet and he said, in order to clarify for them what I have revealed for them. So without the Quran, without the sunnah, you cannot understand the Quran at all. The Prophet ﷺ explained the word, explained the Quran. He explained it. So he says, "Alaykum bi sunnati." Not only he says my sunnah, which is amazing, wa sunnati al-khulafa al-mahdiyyin al-rashidin min ba'di. And then he says the sunnah of the khulafa, Abu Bakr wa Uthman wa Ali. Very important to know this, my brothers and sisters. Today the core of the belief and the conflict amongst the Muslims is because they divide or swing away from the understanding of the Sahaba. How did they understand Islam? You can understand. Everybody can understand Islam the way he wants. You remember when I mentioned at Fajr that this is amazing hadith. Go search it out. Sahih hadith. Sahih. It means sound hadith of the Prophet. He said the destruction of my ummah. And this is, I want you to wake up. Not anybody who says I have the Quran, it means that's it. No, you have to. This is the Quran. How you understand the Quran. And this is a clarification of the Prophet ﷺ. He says, Yushiku, my ummah, there will be rajulun, a man that is sitting, eating and drinking, laying down on the floor. Wallah, hadith is like this. رجل يعني متكئ على أريكته يقول ما في القرآن أخذنا به ولا نأخذ. He says, whatever in the Quran we'll take from, other than this we won't take nothing. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, this is the true fitna is from this guy. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the halak of my ummah fil Qur'ani wal laban. He said the destruction of my ummah is in the Quran. What he means by the Quran? The Quran should be guidance. Hudan lil muttaqeen. But you know what? The understanding, he's talking about the destruction in my ummah in the Quran and the laban and milk. You know, I tell you why he says milk. So Sahaba, they say, Ya Rasulullah, what is the destruction of the ummah in the Quran? He says, yes, يَقْرَؤُونَ الْقُرْآنِ يُؤَوِّلُونَهُ عَلَى هَوَاهُمْ. They read the Quran and they interpret it the way they want to interpret. No. Abdullah ibn Abbas, he says, مَنْ قَالَ فِي الْقُرْآنِ بِرَأْيِهِ فَقَدْ أَخْطَأَ وَلَوْ أَصَابَ. Whomever speak in the Quran from his own desire, he's mistaken even if he's right. Like always when I look at Tafsir al-Sa'di, Tafsir ibn Kathir, Tafsir ibn Ashur, Tafsir al-Qurtubi. You have to know this thing. You can't just interpret the Quran from your mind. That's why Abdullah ibn Abbas, he says, Man hakama, whomever interpret the Quran from his own, he's mistaken. You cannot talk about the Quran from your own. So the Prophet ﷺ, he says, the destruction of my ummah is in the Quran. They say, Ya Rasulullah, how? He says, they read the Quran and they interpret it the way they want. Everybody twists the ayah to suit himself. So the understanding of Islam through the eyes of the Prophet ﷺ and through the eyes of the Sahaba is the key. That's why we have many groups. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, my ummah will be divided on 73 groups. And then he says, all of them in the hellfire. Wallah, hadith sahih. He says, ستفترق أمتي على 73 فرقة كلهم في النار إلا واحدة. I close with this. He says, my ummah will be divided, especially in the end of the time. And the more we go through the end of the time, which is Yawm al-Qiyamah, the more you see division. And that's why the hadith, another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, لا تقوم الساعة إلا على شرار الخلق. That the end of the time will never rise except on the worst of the people. And then there's another hadith, he said that the end of the time will not come until no one will say La ilaha illallah. You know, can you believe this? So we have to return back to the Quran, the Sunnah, and the understanding of the Sunnah through the eyes of the Sahaba, the companion. The Quran was revealed upon them day and night. Without this, we will never understand. So he says, my ummah will be divided in 73, and then he says, all of them in the hellfire. One Sahabi, he got up, he says, Ya Rasulullah, illa wahida, except one. Which is this one? He says, look the answer, look at the answer. Wallahi, the answer is the key, which not too many groups talking about this hadith. They talk about their interpretation there. He says, ma ana alayhi al-yawm wa ashabi. Wallahi, go look at the hadith. He says, they say, Ya Rasulullah, who's this group that they are going to be saved from the hellfire? He says, whomever he is upon what I am on it today, which is that time, 1400 years. If you want to know, you follow the true Islam, you have to go back all the way and trace the origin of Islam. خَيْرُ النَّاسِ قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. The best people is my people, and those who after them, and those who after them. He says, مَا أَنَا عَلَيْهِ الْيَوْمُ وَأَصْحَابِي. When they ask him, who's this group that is saved, Ya Rasulullah? He says, the people that they follow me and my companion. A woman came and she says, Ya Rasulullah, what if you die, whom I should ask? He says, ask this man. And he was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. There's groups today that they live among us and they pray and they fast and they curse Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and they curse Umar ibn al-Khattab. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, by the way, he's mentioned in the Quran twice. How could you in the world, it's easy for me to understand, I don't know about some people. If Allah praise somebody, Allah praise someone, how can I come as a Muslim thinking that I am a Muslim who prays 5 times a day and curse someone who actually praised by Allah? It's a lunatic, somebody who's come worshiping another world, another planet. No, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says. So this is actually the understanding of Islam is the core. To do this, you have to study. You have to seek knowledge, especially at the time of the fitan. You have to return back to Quran. You have to have a steady study about the Quran every day. Not only just reciting and memorizing, but reciting, memorizing and understanding. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله.